Hey everybody, it's Aldo Gandhi, and I just want to let you know really quickly that our swag shop is reopened. DeepDishTees.com is where you go, and that's tees with T-E-E-S. Clever name, guys. They're the new home of our merchandise. You can get t-shirts, you can get caps, you can get coffee mugs, you can get hoodies, you can get all sorts of good stuff, and you'll help out the bar room with the purchase. So head over to DeepDishTees.com.
You're listening to the Ballroom Network. The following program is intended for all audiences. Welcome to the South Burbs Hitmen podcast with your hosts Joe Mandel, Steven Zim Zimmerman, and Chris Gonzalez. We're bringing you the White Sox coverage you need from the perspective of true Southsiders. Grab your Comiskey dog with an ice cold beer and meet us in section 155. Everyone get on your feet for your 2021 South Burbs Hitmen.
That ball hit deep. Way back. You can put it on the board. Yes. Jimenez in the air. Left field. He's your hero tonight. Thanks, Cubs.
Over the head of Jenks. Uribe charges throws. Out! And the White Sox have won the World Series.
Alexei! Yes! 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 History! A perfect game by Mark Burley, and what an unbelievable play by Dwayne White.
First pitch starts now. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the South Burbs Hitmen podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mandel, and I'm joined by my White Sox brothers in arms. That's Chris Gonzalez. And join me in welcoming back Steven Zim Zimmerman after the birth of his son, AJ. Zim, it's good to have you back, buddy. Welcome back.
Thank you. Sorry, I don't mean to look distracted. I'm just adjusting some levels over here. In my time away from the dials, they seem to have gotten all right, there I am. They seem to have gotten bumped around a little bit. But yeah, it's great to be back. Thank you guys very much for everything. Thank you to Vinnie for filling in admirably, and maybe more to come with that. So yeah, just awesome to be back. That's what we
call a teaser, folks. That's right. Glad to have you back, Zim. And Chris, it's great to be talking baseball with you as always, but we're going to skip all the formality and get straight to it. We got a great guest tonight. Slavko Bekovic from NBC Sports Chicago is with us. Slavko, thank you so much for joining us, man. We're excited to talk White Sox baseball with you.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it, guys.
Hey, man, no problem. Obviously we know you work at NBC Sports Chicago. You're all over the place covering the White Sox. You've done fantasy football. You've done Blackhawks. But tell us a little bit about your journey in sports broadcasting and, what it's like to work so closely with a team you grew up watching.
Yeah, it definitely makes my job a little bit easier because I have a natural rooting interest. So, the years I was covering the Blackhawks, it's easy to come up with topics because I watch the game as a fan still, and I can kind of incorporate that into, covering it professionally. So on one hand, I'm grateful that I get to cover the teams that I love. On the other hand, you get jaded by doing it day in and day out because it is still work, despite how awesome or exciting or, however you want to categorize it, it's still work at the end of the day. So when you have thank God, I will say, I didn't like the extra inning rule until I started producing shows with the extra inning rule. Man, those 14 inning games are just, it's taxing, especially when you have,
Sure.
a noon game the next day. But overall, I mean, it's a lot of fun. I get to work with a lot of great people. And, if you told me at age 16, when the White Sox won the World Series, that I'd be doing this one day, especially working with Frank and Ozzie and the incredible cast of people that we have, I'd be humbled for sure. I wouldn't believe you at all, but I'm grateful to be doing it. That's for sure.
Hey man, it's totally got to be surreal. But
segueing to the current White Sox team, this weekend, Tony La Russa moved to second all time on the list of wins for a manager. Tony's gotten a lot of flack this season for his handling of
I
his
haven't really
team.
noticed.
I feel like you probably know that, working on all the shows that you do, but he still has his team in first place with a 36-23 record. How do you feel about Tony La Russa after 2 months into the season?
Well, that's a loaded question. So I'm not one of those people that, managing does or does not matter. He doesn't decide games 100% because ultimately it's the execution of the players. Perfect example the other day with the bunt that has everybody up in arms is if the bunt goes down the third base side and, then TA or Madrid will come up and get the runs home, nobody's really questioning it as much. I totally understand the thought process of, I get both sides of it. The bunt is, it's questionable when you have Holland on the ropes. He couldn't really find the strike zone. Was it 4 straight guys reach base? I was actually kind of surprised that they left Holland in to face Mendick. I'm assuming it's because they knew at that time, Hinch, there was a shot in the dugout. It looked like they were expecting the bunt. But if that bunt goes down the third base side and Lamb gets into third base, we're not really having this discussion. But, that's obviously one of a number of things that have been head scratching at times with Tony. He's obviously got the old school kind of persona, so to speak, but the record kind of speaks for itself. You can say Connie Mack is the winningest manager. He's also the winningest owner because who's going to fire yourself, right? So
Exactly.
He's got the best record in Major League history as a manager, over 500. So if you scratch Connie Mack from that, Tony stands alone. But there are things that have changed in the game of baseball, and there are things that I don't want to say have passed him by because he's been here nonstop. Just because he wasn't managing, he's been in front offices. He's watched it from above. It is a different beast, though, when you're in the dugout and you're the one, pushing all the buttons. So ultimately, it comes down to execution, and this is with any team and any manager or in any sport, really. If you make the call, it's up to the player to execute. That said, I do think the White Sox are in first place because the talent and the roster. And, if AJ Hinch or Alex Cora or anyone else was managing this team, they'd still probably be in first place despite the injuries and despite all the, hoopla that's happened off the field and some of the crazy storylines that we've talked about all season.
Yeah, Tony, it's been an interesting year for sure. So there's no doubt about that. Hopefully they can keep it up and get some playoffs on the South Side. But during that same series where he got the win, the record, the White Sox debuted their Nike City Connect jerseys.
So much swag.
So much swag. The park can't even keep them in stock, and neither can the web store at MLB.com. First off, what do you think of the jerseys? And secondly, if you had to pick an all-time favorite jersey, what would it be?
Ooh, well, the Southside jerseys are amazing, and I was able to see a few of them in person. The Sox sent them to the studio. We wore them the day that they made the announcement. Well, we didn't.
Oh,
Chuck
nice.
And Ozzy and Frank did. But I guess the one that was sent for me got lost in the mail, but I won't complain about that too much. But no, I think they're amazing. I love it. I do like the hat, but I kind of wish that the hat had the S that's on the South Side rather than the CHI. It's so nice looking because it's still familiar enough to know that that's the White Sox S, but it's also different enough where I'm like, oh, okay, that'd be pretty sweet to have on a hat. But that sweatshirt, the next time if I can get to the ballpark at any point, that's in stock, and that's like number one on my list of gear that I need to get. As far as like all-time White Sox jerseys, I do like the powder blue ones, the classic.
Oh, nice.
I think Bill Melton helped me get an internship at NBC Sports Chicago, then Comcast Sportsnet, like 11 years ago now. So like I hold a special place in my heart, and doing shows with Bill was just kind of like full circle for me. But those powder blues, like the Dick Allen cover, I love those too.
It's classic, man. It's a great choice. Great choice. So I'm going to pass you off to one of my co-hosts, Chris Gonzalez. Chris, why don't you take things away, buddy?
Hey, Slavko. Once and foremost, thank you, for giving us your time to come on the show of ours. My first question for you is, out of all the promising arms coming up, which one most excites you on this roster?
On the roster, so I was thinking about this yesterday watching Cease pitch, because you can make the argument realistically, it's between Cease and Kopech as far as who's got better stuff. I think Kopech has that mentality on the mound that you want from, an ace. I think Cease we're seeing signs of it from him, which I think is really exciting. A little bit more emotion on the mound. He's a very centered guy. He meditates a lot. He really focuses on, the mental side of sports in general. But I think Kopech has that. Cease is from Georgia, Kopech is from Texas, so maybe it's that Texas just like, I'm going to shove it. This is what I got. Good luck hitting it. So it's between the two of them. The potential there is through the roof with these guys. And when you think of what their rotation could be in a couple years, eventually Keuchel and Lynn are going to be gone. And, TBD on what happens with Giolito once those contract extensions continue to happen. But Kopech, if Crochet is going to become a starting pitcher, you add Cease to that. Jared Kelly, by the way, it's a shame that there wasn't a ton of minor league experience available for a lot of these younger guys last year. But he's got incredible stuff too. So the future rotation is promising for sure, but it's got to be between Cease and Kopech. The curveball that Cease has been throwing over the last handful of starts is promising to me because I think he's showing that he's trusting his stuff more. And for him, just like with any young pitcher, right, it's all about command. I think he's starting to command his stuff a little bit better, or even just trusting it. And you're seeing it with the swings and misses that he's getting in a lot of these starts. Granted, the Tigers' offense is not going to scare anybody out of their cleats, that's for sure. But
right.
The slider, the curveball from both of those guys, and Kopech's Cease's changeup is another kind of wild card because he likes to throw it more to lefties than righties. And we were doing a show last week, and Frank is in the studio, and he's like, "Dude, if he starts throwing this changeup to right-handers more, that's the equalizer. And that's ace potential." So we're spoiled. Like, this pitching staff is so loaded, and there's so many guys too, like on the cusp or in the future that we're going to see. The stuff is just crazy with this staff.
Yeah, no, I actually completely agree with you on, Cease, but even Crochet, that's a guy that when he starts getting control, we already see what he has with, his arsenal, but once he gets more control and confidence, that's just watch out with him and Kopech. And I also did see your hesitation when I said the roster, because I do agree with you with Jared Kelly in the minors. That's a second rounder from last year that he looks really promising, as well as a third rounder, Addison Coffey. Mm-hmm. He looks like he could be pretty solid too. My next one I got here for you is if you were Han, what is your priority of need at the deadline? And give us some targets, perhaps, that you have in mind.
Mike Trout would be my first target. I would see if I can try to acquire him.
I love it.
Juan Soto might be, like number 2. But no, realistically, it's tough to look at potential trade targets because I would personally want a left-handed bat. And there's just not a lot out there. Obviously, Joey Gallo is going to be the first name, and he certainly would fit a need. He wouldn't be my kind of premier target just because he's another one of those 3 true outcome guys, and I'm not a huge fan of adding more of that to this lineup. With Grandal in the middle of the lineup, he's number 1 in baseball right now. He's at like 60% between home runs, strikeouts, and walks. Makata's another guy who gets a lot of walks and or strikeouts. The power is starting to come along with him. But in general, would he be an addition to this team and help? 100%. But it also would have to, it depends on what the price is that you're going to pay. Starling Marte is a name that a lot of people have brought up, a right-handed bat. If you're willing to add another righty, the contract makes sense. He's not super expensive, and he's a free agent after this year. I was always kind of on the Charlie Blackmon bandwagon, and I would love him on the White Sox. The problem is that contract is not good. He's declining. He's on the wrong side of the 30s. I think he's 34 now. But the key is he has 2 player options. If those were club options, then you might be able to talk Jerry into paying $22 million for him next year. The problem is he's got 23 and 24 player options, and I doubt no matter where he goes, he's going to be declining those. So I do think a left-handed bat would be really beneficial to this team. I don't know how aggressive that they'll be in trying to go out and get a Gallo or someone like that. The, I guess, promising thing is that we just saw the trade between Texas and the White Sox in the offseason with Dunning and Lynn. So I don't think that those trade talks would have to go on very long before they can strike a deal. It's just a matter of whether that's something that the White Sox and Rick Hahn feel would be a wise addition to this lineup. I will say Jake Lamb and Yermin Mercedes, obviously the production that they've had early on has certainly helped, mitigate the blow of losing Eloy and losing Luis Robert. And Adam Engel coming back in center field helps with the defensive aspect, at least in center. But yeah, I think a left-handed bat, someone that you can put in the middle or lower third of the order, just to strengthen that would be huge. The White Sox kill lefties, although it's curtailed itself a little bit since the start of last year. But I wasn't expecting them to go perfect for 2 seasons against left-handed pitching, so that would probably be number one. I do think they might explore the market for another bullpen arm too, just maybe somebody that you can use in more of a mop-up role or a long guy, so to speak. I know it's not really prevalent that we see anymore, but I think it would go a long way in helping keep the rotation fresh for hopefully October and taking some of the pressure off some of these guys who have their roles changing day to day, like a Marshall or a Hoyer or guys that you see sometimes in the 5th, sometimes you see them in the 9th. So
yeah, maybe another name to add around the studio would be Cedric Mullins. Maybe you can mention him a little bit from Baltimore. As
He's
left-handed bat. Yeah, he is. He was getting a lot of talk from MLB Network today. Also, out of all the Sox figures from NBC or even just NBC personnel itself, who have you learned from the most, and what lessons impacted you the most? And I know when we had Alyssa on, she mentioned Steve Stone. So maybe give us what you have at the moment.
Sure. Like I said, Bill Melton was kind of a huge figure for me in helping getting into the industry. He actually, so he lives in Arizona. He would fly in to Chicago in the spring and do the season, and usually last day of the season he's flying back out to Arizona. But he was actually neighbors with my dad downtown for a few years when I was in college. So my dad was, got to know him fairly well, and he's like, "Hey, my son's a broadcasting major. Like, is there any way that you can help him, find a job or whatever, blah, blah." And all he did was just give my dad the phone number of Kevin Anderson, who at the time was running our internship program. And it all kind of worked out from there. So I owe a lot of my career, a good portion of it, to Bill Melton. So Bill always has a soft spot in my heart, and he's just an amazing guy too. He's one of those guys you want to kind of BS with and have a beer with and just listen to his glory days, because they are some amazing stories, that's for sure. And then now, going from Bill Melton to Ozzie Guillen, I really couldn't be more spoiled. Ozzie's another incredible human being. The stories that the two of those guys have shared with me, I will take to the grave with me, because I can't share most of them. But just two genuinely awesome dudes. And like I said, I'm pretty grateful. And even on those stressful days or those long nights or these weeks where you're going game after game, and going through a rebuild isn't easy on anybody. It's not easy on the players, the front office, the fans. It's not easy on people covering the team. So I'm grateful to be able to have the coworkers that I do right now. And like I said, if you told me 15, 20 years ago that I'd be working with Frank Thomas and Ozzie Guillen regularly and BSing with those guys, I wouldn't have believed you. So I would say Ozzie and Bill, from the White Sox side of things, for sure have been amazing people to work with.
Okay. Now, Slavko, before I turn it over...
Oh, and Alyssa Bergamini. So I guess I got to throw her out there, too.
There you go.
All right, now before I turn over to Zim, everyone in the chat, please get your questions in for Slavko. We will be getting to them shortly. All right, Zim, go ahead.
Hey. All right. Hey, this is my first show back in a while, so we're going to see how this goes, all right?
Don't mess it up.
Have been, no, I'm just kidding. It's going to be great. It's going to be great because you're a great guest, so it's going to go.
Appreciate that. You guys do a great job. You guys do a really great job, so I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, we appreciate that, too, honestly. Little words like that go a long way when you're just starting out like us. And
keep at it, man.
So, all right, I'm just going to come out swinging then. So,
oh God.
So the Sox have gotten a ton of production from their rookies this year, and I don't think any of us saw it coming. Between Mercedes and Madrigal and Vaughn and Crochet and Kopech, and I mean, I'm sure there's going to be more guys throughout the season that keep coming up, and this and that and the other thing. Do you think that Tony La Russa is deserving of the credit for it, or is it just the talent these guys have, or are they just stepping up? What do you think is causing all this production coming from this core, this almost quarter of the team that's rookies?
It's a great question. I guess I never really considered it that way, because every team in Major League Baseball is having to deal with a lot of young players on their roster. I mean, we've covered, and certainly you guys and I have watched a lot of baseball, especially the last couple seasons. How many times have you seen a lineup where you go, I have not heard of a third of the guys in this lineup, or I have no idea who the starting pitcher is, or I've never Eric Haas. I'd not heard of Eric Haas before like 10 days ago. And he killed the White Sox in that series. It's probably the series of his life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who gets credit for all of that? I guess to an extent, it's partly circumstances. If Eloy Jimenez doesn't, as Rick Hahn put on this Sox Degrees podcast this morning, if he doesn't tear his armpit hanging off of a fence in spring training, we don't get to see Yermin Mercedes go 8 for 8 to start his career. Who gets the credit? I mean, yeah, I guess Tony, to an extent, you've got to make the decision to put him in the lineup and put him in a spot to succeed, which for the most part has worked with a lot of the triggers that he's pulled this season. As far as making the lineup or giving guys opportunities, some of it is necessity. Some of it is that's the next man up. So that's who gets it. But if he doesn't let Yermin Mercedes go and have that crazy start that he did, then Yermin Mercedes doesn't hit 400 for a month and win Rookie of the Month. I mean, to an extent, Nick Madrigal, to me, that's a Rick Hahn, that's a scouting and front office thing. You knew exactly what you were going to get out of Nick Madrigal when you drafted him, and for the most part, he has been exactly what they expected. Same thing with Kopech and some of these other guys. I mean, it's the scouting departments. It's the guys that sit there and watch a ton of baseball that's not on the big leagues and it's not on TV that are, helping put this team in position to succeed. So you've got to give Rick Hahn a lot of credit. Then you look at, the guys who are producing who aren't really rookies, and Jake Lamb and Billy Hamilton have been, again, huge and producing and filling in for some innings that are lost specifically in the outfield. But I guess to the point of rookies, Tony gets some credit for putting them in a position to succeed as much as he can. But for me, it's, the front office and the scouting department that goes out and finds guys who are talented enough and fit what they're trying to do. And I will add, the guy that I don't think gets enough love is Frank Menechino, the hitting coach for the White Sox. When he said, F the home run, I know a lot of people were like, this is 2021. Are we supposed to be doing this? Like, the White Sox have, last I checked, it could have changed by now. They had the lowest launch angle of any single team in Major League Baseball. But they had the 4th best record. They have the best run differential, and they have the biggest division lead in all of baseball. So ultimately, like we discussed at the beginning, Tony gets a lot of flack or whatever. It's the 25, 26, 27 guys on the roster that are going out and executing, and that's ultimately what puts you in a position to get into the playoffs, and then things are going to get even more magnified.
No, that's a great point. When I wrote the question, I guess I didn't really think about the scouting department as much as I probably should have, but you're right. Those are really the unsung heroes in this whole, I mean, in any sport, but particularly in what we're seeing develop in the White Sox organization right now. That's a great point I didn't think about.
I mean, drafts, rebuilds, you're tearing it all down and you're starting from scratch. And those decisions, for the most part, have really panned out for Hahn and that whole staff. Top to bottom, when this team is healthy, this lineup is stupid good. This bullpen has incredible stuff. The rotation is loaded. There's really not a ton to complain about. So I think that's part of the reason why we're complaining about some of these, smaller things. It's like, oh, well, this team could be really, really good.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I'm looking at the rest of my questions here, and I'm thinking, I should probably just hit you right with the next heavy one.
Go for it, man. I'm a punching bag.
That's it. I'm just going to go right at it. So this is more of a big picture question here. A lot of talk about pitch doctoring the last few weeks, the last week or so in particular, kind of stemming from that incident with the Cardinals Sox game. What do you have to say about it? I mean, are we just seeing it more because of the cameras, or is it like the flavor of the week, or is this actually a problem? Are we blowing it out of proportion? Like, what do you think about this whole situation, and do you think there's some kind of solution?
Solution there to me. There's two solutions. You either legalize it and let everybody get away with it because, as Trevor Bauer put it the other day, 80%, approximately somewhere in that range, are doing something of some form to alter the baseball, alter the mitt, using foreign substances, whatever it might be. So he said if you enforce it, you're going to have 20% of major league pitchers left on rosters after all the suspensions. So as long as it's a level playing field, and I think I was just seeing some tweets from Bob Nightingale. I think Mike Trout spoke today about it. And as long as there's a level playing field, I mean, I don't really care one way or the other. Look, baseball's been around for a lot of years, and people have been cheating for a lot of years. Okay, it's not going to stop. They're going to find ways to change or to cheat in different ways, whether it's performance enhancing drugs, whether it's doctoring baseballs. I think there's theories that there's still some juice baseballs and some dead balls that are being just kind of scattered into games now, where I think the last few years we all know that the balls were juice. Now it's like, how are pitchers so good? Well, number one, naturally over the course of time, medicine, training, we just learn more, and that's just evolution of human life. In 100 years, guys might be throwing 125 miles per hour regularly. Who knows? I mean, in 1890, I don't think anybody would ever have said someone's going to throw 104 mile per hour fastball, or that somebody's going to hit 735 home runs. So I'm a fan of the game, so I want to be entertained. Watching great pitching is entertaining, but it's also boring. I'd much rather watch great pitching in October than on June 6th or June 7th. When my team's got great pitching, then I'm happy, especially if there's also great hitting on our team. But to me, it's got to be a level playing field. I think guys are going to cheat regardless of what you try to do or enforce it. You're getting into a really gray area, though, if you are going to enforce it. So, I mean, if a guy's sweating and just happens to wipe his forehead, like, is that a banned substance? Like, are you doctoring the baseball? I don't know if you guys watched the show last week when we kind of brought it up after the Steve Stone saw the James Karinchak stuff with his glove, right. And it's, he's not hiding whatever it is, whether it's a nervous tick or there's some substance in his glove. He's not hiding what he's doing. There was no secret to what James Karinchak was doing. And I feel like there's probably a lot of guys too. And, Liam Hendricks was asked about it last week, and, people question him because he always goes to his hat. He goes to the brim of his hat, or he wipes the back. He touches the rosin bag. He's like, it's more of a nervous tick. So now every time I look at a pitcher grab his hat, am I going to think, oh, he's cheating? Frank had a great story about catchers who you would, catch the mitt, jack the ball right up against their shin pads, scuff it up good, toss it right back to the pitcher. And they would do that 100 times in a game. They weren't using a new ball every third pitch. So I don't know. Just make it an even playing field. If they legalize it, which won't happen, that would probably be more entertaining, and you're going to see crazy spin rates and crazy strikeout numbers. But the game is trending in this direction where the ball's just not in play. Defense is less and less important because you're seeing 15 strikeouts a game from pitching staffs, and you're not seeing sacrifice bunts and stolen bases and all that. But guys are also better and throwing harder, and there's not much you can do to change the physical attributes of pitchers. But I don't know. I guess I don't really have an answer. Just figure it out. I mean, I don't like the talk about it and we're looking for it, but we're not really enforcing it. Like, okay, so what are you going to do now when you start enforcing it? What's the penalty, and how are you going to define what the penalties are? So if I catch you with pine tar in your mitt, that's 5 games. Okay, well, is that 5 starts or is it 5 games? Or if I catch you with, Vaseline inside your jock, like, there's so many ways to cheat as a pitcher and in the game of baseball that I just don't know how they are going to enforce this and keep it a level playing field. It is, to an extent, I think, the flavor of the week. In a couple weeks, maybe we'll see all of a sudden the home runs go way back up and pitchers suck again, or who knows what. But I will say, when Major League Baseball is hitting 220, it's not an entertaining product.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Zim. I was just going to say, today on the MLB Network, they posted an MLB report saying that the officiating is going to start enforcing it. And the reason they haven't done so up to this point is just because it used to be the officiating had the rule out there in MLB rule book, but it was supposed to be up to the managers to harp onto it. But when they like what Bauer's saying, if 70% of the league is doing it, the managers are kind of like
exactly
throwing themselves up because they got guys doing it too. So now it has to be put into the officials, and maybe it was Joe West, throwing it out there to begin it. But it's just a situation. And it seems like MLB Network, that when they were releasing this report, it just seemed like in the details within it that this has been a scouting department issue from across the league, that they have individual reports of certain pitchers on what they exactly do. So it got to the point where they just have a bookload of reports and what guys are doing, that like Garrett Cole and Karinchak, you could see the resin substitute on the mitts, or the hats. It's just one of those things where if you see it, you just got to do it.
On his neck.
Yeah, in the neck. Yeah, that too.
Michael Pineda had it. I think he had it like all over his forearm, behind his ear. I mean, guys are gonna trust me. Ozzy just told me a story, and this is not a White Sox player. I won't say the name, but the guy had like the Bat Boys rub Vaseline pretty much all over his body before every single start. I mean, if you're going to need Jose Canseco, like I think Ozzie Guillen Jr. Said this recently. There's going to be a Jose Canseco that comes out and just spills the beans on all the guys who cheat, or pitchers at least. But like you said, a manager's not going to call out the opposite team when he very likely knows there's probably a couple guys on his own staff that are cheating in some form or fashion. So, I just have a hard time imagining how they're going to be able to really enforce this.
What I really like is that at least now, like to a certain point, like it's great to see the spin rates go up and see all the nasty stuff you see on Pitching Ninja from these pitchers around the league. But it comes to a certain point where these guys are the best of the best, and now we're going to actually see the natural talent come out and who's actually the best. Because people can say Garrett Cole's the best right-handed or best-handed pitcher in the AL, but really could be Lance Lynn with what Lance is doing for our Sox. So I just like seeing the natural talent come out than cheating the game itself.
I want a staff of all Lance Lynn's. That's my guy.
Me too,
throw
man.
93% fastball. It's going to go straight. It's going to go that way or that way, and you're going to have trouble hitting it. So this is what I got. Go for it. I love guys like that.
And they're all going to have a bunch of Italian beefs after the game's over. Lance Lynn just looks like a White Sox fan. I love it. But speaking of White Sox fans, we got a lot of them here in the chat, and we got a lot of great questions here for you, Slavko. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a couple of them.
All right.
Our buddy Santiago's got a question for you. The recent video of Eloy looking happy and healthy fired me up. Have you heard anything about his rehab or Roberts?
Find me a video where Eloy does not look happy or healthy, and
exactly
that's the bigger story.
Yeah.
But I think Han gave an update to the beat reporters a handful of days ago. It's still kind of too early to tell with two major injuries like that. The fingers are crossed. I mean, everybody's really hopeful that one or two of them will be back, hopefully for a deep October run at the latest, but it's just so hard to prognosticate. I mean, people saw the, Luis Roberts Instagram, he's off crutches. Okay, great. Like you go tear your hip flexor completely off your bone and then walk for a few days after the fact and then be like, yeah, you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to go full speed in the outfield and go run down a gapper and then throw it to third base. It's not that easy. These guys are great. Modern medicine is incredible. The White Sox training staff has always been very well known for recovery and rehab and whatnot. So I think the team is optimistic, but it's still just so early and unfortunately too early to tell. I think we'll know more. We'll know more on Eloy probably in the next 6 weeks, and then I don't know. Is it June? My days get all mixed up.
It's June now.
Okay.
June 7th.
Yeah. So July, August, September. Yeah, we got time. If the Sox get one of those guys back, it's like having a huge major trade deadline addition. So I think the team is optimistic, but it's still just too early to tell on both guys, unfortunately.
No doubt about it, man. But that game canceled against the Indians because of high winds the other day. That could come back to bite them in the butt because later in the season, that September game, that you could have one or both of those guys back potentially.
Yeah. Well, a 5-game series in September, depending on which side of the spectrum you're on, you're either, really terrified of that series or you're really confident that, we can put them away for good. I'm hoping for a 5-game series, they have at least a 6-game lead entering that series. I'll put it that way.
I hope so too, man. I sure hope so. We got another one here from Joe Z. I was a big Bill Melton fan. Did you ever talk with Bill about his injuries shortening his career?
Probably. I don't recall many specifics. More of the stories from Bill were about his time playing in Hawaii, which was certainly an experience. I do know he's told me the story. If you guys have noticed how messed up his little pinky is, just from sliding into bases over and over, and they didn't have the big oven mitts and whatnot back in the day. So never spoke much. I try not to bother guys too much with like injuries or the negative part of their career.
Sure.
Unless they're willing to talk about it on their own. And Bill's an open book for sure. Most of the guys actually that we work with, even Gordon Beckham this year, like these guys are really open and kind of self-aware of how their careers went. They're their own biggest critics. That's the only way you get to the show, is by having incredible talent, but also being the hardest on yourself and not letting anybody else be harder on you. So no specific Bill Melton stories that I can share as far as injuries shortening his career. But I do know for however long his career was, he definitely made the most of it.
There's no doubt there. And then Bearstown 19's got a question for you. Should baseball bring back home plate collisions? I know this, as someone that runs a post-game show, that's some good clips for you. But what do you think personally?
If star players didn't get hurt at home plate, I bet you they would still probably be legal. I don't know. I'm all about player safety for the most part. It can still be an exciting play at the plate without the collision. I think it's kind of I don't want to use the term no-brainer, but as close to a no-brainer as you can, just by eliminating that, because the chances of it having a meaningful impact on the game as opposed to the chances of how it can destroy somebody's career potentially, I just don't think that it's worth it. Yes, it's incredibly exciting. I think any play at the plate is very exciting. But just get rid of third base coaches then and have everybody run green lights nonstop.
That would make for some crazy games for sure. Some good highlights for the post-game show, no doubt. But before we let you go, we usually try to ask our guests if they could do a quick station ID for us.
Sure.
We wonder if you wouldn't mind doing that. Our show is called South Burbs Hitmen. You can kind of do your own twist on it, say whatever you want, introduce yourself, and just say, hey, I'm Slavko, and you're listening to South Burbs Hitmen. You can spice it up however you like. I can give you a countdown whenever you're ready.
So I'm actually a new resident of the south suburbs myself. My girlfriend and I purchased a home in Tinley Park in December.
Oh, no kidding. Happy to be New Lenox.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, we're neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Give me a countdown. I'll put the old radio voice back on and we can do that.
I love it. Let's do it. All right, here we go. We'll go 3, 2, 1.
Hey, I'm Slavko Bekovic from Tinley Park, Illinois, and you are listening to South Burbs Hitmen.
Oh, man. One take, Slavko. I love it, man. It's absolutely perfect.
I get it from Ozzy. He's 1, 2, 3. So sorry. Everything's easy.
That's awesome, man. Well, again, we thank you so much for your time. Before you get out of here, tell people where they could follow you on social media and a little bit about what you got coming up.
I have nothing interesting to say at all on Twitter, so don't follow me at @sbekovic. But yeah, I mean, most of the stuff I tweet is all White Sox related. If you followed me a year ago, it was all Blackhawks related. Our jobs consume our lives, but I guess I'm spoiled because I'm a fan of these teams, and to a lot of people, I probably have a dream job. So I'm pretty grateful for that. We have an exciting guest on tomorrow's pre and post game show. If you guys didn't see, Chris Chelios is going to be a guest analyst on Tuesday as we start a series with the Blue Jays. So it should be a really good series between two really quality teams, number one. And then it should be fun just to see what Ozzy and Chelly are going to do with each other on the pregame show. So that's kind of the immediate thing on tap. But there's a lot coming in the near future on the pre and post game shows, so stay tuned on NBC Sports Chicago. They just announced actually today there's going to be some more media access on the field, so we've got a lot of ideas in the hopper. We've got pent up energy of features from 2 years that we haven't been able to do, so keep an eye on NBC Sports Chicago, and we're hoping to keep all the White Sox fans entertained for the rest of the season and hopefully deep into October.
So we know you guys will. We always appreciate the coverage, and we appreciate your time tonight. And we love to have you back on another off day later in the season. Appreciate you giving us one of your off days this year.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me on, guys. Keep up the great work.
Hey, no problem. Hey, appreciate it, man. Thank you, and thanks again for your time.
See you, boys.
All right,
Thanks,
guys.
Slavko.
All right, we'll see ya. Guys, that was Slavko Bekovic. I always want to mess it up. Slavko is an amazing guest. Slavko, we really appreciate your time. We'll love to have you on again in the near future. And boy, oh boy, guys, how about that? How about Slavko? I mean, I feel like I could talk to him all night, right?
Yeah, I feel like we get spoiled by the White Sox, but we also get spoiled by NBC because they just have some great crew to their whole company. So,
absolutely. So before we get to the rest of the show, we're going to take a quick commercial break. So we will be right back.
South Burbs Hitmen will be right back.
Look, I don't mean any disrespect. He just didn't play that well. Not for a guy of his caliber.
If they don't run the ball here, I'm going to vomit. I swear to God.
I don't really have any recollection of that at all, but I guess perhaps I blacked it all out.
You know, they won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they stunk. On the latest, sportscaster and her son, Peggy Kaczynski, interviews Dr. Scott Goldman, who administered an intelligence test to quarterback Justin Fields.
Okay, so Dr. Goldman, hang on one second, because we've been talking about how you're protecting the confidentiality of your clients, and we just found out from Justin Fields' agent that it's okay to talk about Justin's scores. This is exciting to us. Now we can finally say yay or nay to what we have heard hearsay in some other reports. So let's talk about Justin Fields.
Return to South Burbs Hitmen.
And we are back, gentlemen. Boy, oh boy. Let's get into the rest of the show. Let's get into our talking points from the top of the show, guys. And the first thing I wanted to bring up, Gonzo, is it just came out a little while ago. Yermin Mercedes wants to be in the home run derby. He wants to be in the game. Who knows if he's going to make the team or not. But Gonzo, what are your thoughts on Yermin Mercedes being in the home run derby?
I mean, I thought I saw something out there that there's like 70 other batters in the MLB that have more home runs than him. If that's a goal of his, and let's be honest, when he puts goals for himself, for example, like AL Player of the Week and then AL Rookie of the Month, he hit his goal. So if he wants to be in the home run derby, he's going to have to put those numbers up pretty soon here, and hopefully he does, because that only helps us and for his own, individual goals as well. And I'm sure that, the more players we see in Denver from the South Side will be just amazing. So, I hope he comes out of his funk here and starts putting big numbers up. That'd be pretty fantastic.
Yeah, Steven Zimmerman, we were just talking about how Yermin Mercedes lobbying to get himself into the home run derby. What are your thoughts?
I mean, as far as the fans are concerned, he would be the go-to guy. And that's sort of what this event is all about, right? It's all about fan interaction and driving up fan interest in the game. It's one of the most watched events of the year in any all-star format for any sport. So People love the home run derby. People love Yermin Mercedes. Just ask Yermin all about it. So yeah, put him in there.
Yeah, Yermin likes the name so much he got it into the side of his hair. I don't know if you guys saw that picture. He's got the Yerminator fade in his hair. It's definitely a hairstyle. We'll give him that. But the one thing that I'm a little worried about is if I'm Rick Hahn, you see Yermin go into this slump. He's kind of in a free fall right now. He's not doing well with fastballs. And here he comes. Oh, I want to be in the home run derby. You see how it messes up guys' swings when they go into it. Would you guys be concerned at all about that? Because personally, I know I would be. Gonzo, does that concern you?
Yeah, it does concern me, but at the same time, like, it's tough because when he was having his, big production and his numbers were way up, above 355 batting average, you just had a feeling eventually he was going to regress to the mean and face that funk that he's in. But when you're in the bigs, you got to figure out how to get out of that funk. And for as great of a 2-strike hitter as he was, you think he will get out of that quicker than others just because of his approach at the plate. But still, like you're saying, Joe, like, you don't want to mess that up going to, the All-Star break and then coming back, especially when we're leading the division and, the pace that we're going at, you don't want to mess anything up. But the good thing is once guys go, regress with their performance, other guys step up. So, that gives other opportunities to Vaughn and other, hitters to take his reps if he goes into a funk. But, I say what's best for the team is best for the team. So, whether or not, he starts going to another funk, it helps the team as well with, representation at the All-Star game. But also, like I said, does give other guys opportunities to show what they're worth and produce for us.
No doubt about it, man. And Zim, I want to ask you, you saw Lucas Giolito get needlessly ejected the other day from chirping from the dugout. The umpire told him to go look at the iPad to see the strike, and then he went back and talked to him and told him it was a crap call. I don't know the exact wording, but how ridiculous is it to toss a starting pitcher who's not in the game during the 9th inning?
Oh, that was just a power move by the umpire. I'm sorry, Chris. I'm probably going to upset you with this, being an umpire yourself, but it's an umpire letting his ego get in the way. A lot of times umpires like to think that they're above the game for whatever reason. They like to try to make the game about themselves. I sincerely hope that you're not one of those kind of guys, and I don't think you are. Just knowing you personally a little bit here and talking to you about the game, you seem to appreciate the integrity of the game. And this is a case of an umpire disrespecting the integrity of this game. What do you think about it being an umpire?
It's a situation I go back and forth on because when you're doing the plate, that's your own craft. That's your own strike zone. I still feel at the same time, like, if I'm that confident in my skill and I had that technology to be like, hey, go check it out, come back to me. And if he does come back to me, then it's like, well, shoot, now he's trying to show me up. And then it's like a situation where it's like, how do you want to do and go about that? Because once he fires back at you, if you don't do something, him or the other players are going to keep chirping at you with your strike zone. So that's a situation where you have to decide if you want to be in front of that confrontation and shut them up, or do you allow them to keep barking at you and just ignore them? It's just a situation that you have to decide. And to his credit, he handled that, as professional as he could. And it didn't seem like Tony, had anything to say about it either. And you do feel bad because, like Lucas's dad was saying on Twitter about, Lucas backing up people in his past. And he as your ace pitcher, I love to see that. As a fan, I love to see him, because we all saw that strike and we're all like, yeah, that's a ball low. Like,
bad.
Yeah, it was shoelaces.
Yeah, and I don't know where the depth of the zone for everyone, even depth and vertical, going inside outside is going to be different. So I don't know if he was above the knees or slightly below the knee. I don't know what his strike zone was low for depth. So it's just a situation where you just hope he's being consistent, but that was kind of bogus. So it was rough to see.
was definitely an interesting. There's been so many weird things in Sox games this year.
Yeah.
I guess we're just kind of getting used to weirdness, if that's a word. I'm going to make it one. But besides those two weird things this week, we win 2 out of 3 from Cleveland and 3 out of 4 from Detroit. I mean, we're doing what we have to do with this division. It was a great weekend. I was there on Saturday in the blistering heat. I saw a loss, of course, the only one they lost. Gonzo, you were there yesterday. You got to see Dylan Cease completely dominate the Tigers. I believe he's 7-0 now against them all time, which is unbelievable. Gonzo, give us some of your takeaways from that game yesterday.
Well, the weather was really hot, but really fantastic. Beautiful day out. To be honest with you, when I was sitting right behind our bullpen at 158 out in left field, so it's a decent angle and I'm a pitcher at heart, so I like to focus on the pitching. But I'm a distance away, so it's hard to see the zone from where I'm at. But his knuckle curve was just nasty, and I enjoyed it a lot more watching the highlights because then I can actually see a little bit better of how the depth was on it. But then I know we'll get to it in a little bit here, but that catch by Engel out in center field for his first game back, that was, oh my gosh. I mean, right off the bat, I thought that was going to be, right at the warning track. I didn't think it was going to go over, but then once I started seeing the flight of the ball, I was like, oh no, like this is not good. But then he made that miraculous catch, and it was a situation I was deep in a rainbow cone because my girlfriend got her cone, and it was a hot day out, so we were just eating ice cream. And I was just like, deep right into the snow or the rainbow cone. And I was just like watching that with my eyes wide open. And then he makes the catch, and that just got the whole stadium going. But that's also a situation where going into that game, I knew the importance of what a win could be, because that would have been Tony's, win for the second in history amongst managerial wins. And I was hoping for a win because I wanted to be there to witness, the history, at least history part of the game. And I know that Cease would have to have a really strong performance to keep the game close, because Abreu was also out of the lineup. So there's a key bat out of the lineup for us. So the fact that
we'll talk about that a little later, but Abreu had a real rough week.
Yeah. The fact that he shut out Detroit through 7, that was just absolutely amazing to see. And he had 10 strikeouts, so he had double-digit strikeouts. That's just going to help his confidence when he goes. I believe he's going to be going against. I have to look at my matchup, so I think he's going to be in Detroit again, at Detroit. So, just for a confidence booster, that's going to help him. And then for our bullpen to keep the shutout was just fantastic to see as well. So those are my few notes that I saw from yesterday.
Yeah, and for any of you fans out there or listeners that want to meet up with Gonzo and I, we will be at the June 25th game against the Mariners. It's a Friday night. We'll be sitting in section 154. So when that gets a little closer, we'll talk about it. But we'll definitely hang out and maybe grab a beer with a couple of you guys out there. So we will definitely see you on the 25th for that one. And that's the first day of the White Sox to go back to 100% capacity. So that is also very exciting as well. So it was a pretty good week for the most part for our buddy Tony La Russa. And on that note, let's get into this next segment. This is a segment we like to call La Russa's Locker. So as we just mentioned, guys, Tony La Russa, second most wins in history by a manager. I mean, that's just crazy exciting. It's a big thing. Obviously La Russa was out of the game for a long time, and he comes back, and in his first season back, he gets there. Huge achievement. I don't think anybody can take that away from him. So first off, it doesn't get much bigger than that. La Russa's Locker, his segment, boom, number 2 all time. So we got that out of the way now. Gonzo, I'll let you go first, but what nitpicks do you have for our buddy TLR this week?
Yeah, so there's a couple situations we can talk about, and we'll just bring up the first one that Slavko kind of began it off with, the Mendick bunt. Oh my gosh, I hate watching or opening up Sox Twitter and looking at all the replies about it, because it's just kind of frustrating. But at the same time, I love the fans and their opinions, so it's great to see. But as far as the situation itself, first and second, no outs. Holland on the mound, who was struggling. You also have to keep in mind that with Mendick up, his past 14 at-bats, he's batting 143. So it's not a guarantee he's going to get a base hit. And there's so many different outcomes that can happen in that situation of him swinging away. First off, in the Yankee series with first and second, we saw, I think it was Vaughn ground out to third and it being a triple play. Yep. So we already have that in our recent minds, first off. And that's just a triple play, let alone if you ground it up the middle into a double play, then you have a guy at third, 2 outs. So that's not even great to see either. So if it's Tony La Russa's decision to put a sacrifice bunt down, all right. Also note, last year's team only had 1 sacrifice bunt with Ricky at the helm. Tony La Russa has 14, which is head of baseball right now. And I like to see that only because when we're missing 2 key power bats in the lineup, you have to win in different ways. And if you have to play old school baseball to get some runs in, you're going to have to do so. And apparently that's La Russa's mind at this, his mindset right now. And I kind of understand it with how our lineup is constructed right now. You're going to have to win like that with our, because if you get, you only need to get a couple of runs in, and then you have a pretty good pitching staff to win those close games. So I understand that philosophy. But in the actual situation, I'm going to say it's a right decision, because what happens is, like he said in the post game, you want to move the runners up to second and third because you had the tying run at you would have the tying run at third and the leading run at second. But it's not just that; it goes a little deeper in the game situation when you put that sacrifice bunt down. Now, granted, Mendick didn't execute it. The first baseman was shifted up, so if he did fail to execute on the directional bunting, you're going to get that fielder's choice situation like you saw in the game to throw to third. But how it works better if you do direct the bunt down to the third base side, there's going to be 2 things that can happen here. One, it's going to, let's just say AJ Hinch sees it coming, all right? Now you have to test 2 things from Detroit defensively. You're going to see how they are going to rotate to that bunt down the third baseline. Is the third baseman going to move up to field it, and the shortstop's going to, cover to third to the runner at, going to the bag at third? How they're going to do that? Is he going to throw to third, or is the third baseman going to stay at third, and that allows the pitcher to field his position? But not only is he going to field his position, you have to remember that Holland is a lefty. So when he's going to have to pick that ball up, because you're taught as a pitcher on bunts that when you're going to field it, you're going to shove your hand into the ground with the baseball to get a good grip and to turn and make that throw. So for a lefty, he's going to have to field it and then throw. It's a little bit better for a righty, but for a lefty, you're going to have to throw across your body to the first base, because you're probably not going to have a play at third with the timing of the play. And in doing so, Tony can also send the runners on the pitch if he wants to make it a little bit, better chances of the runners advancing, making that more of a directional throw to first. But regardless of that, you're taking the chance of that pitcher throwing across his body on an overthrow, or the runner beats the play. So you can't have bases loaded, no one out, or you have the chance of an overthrow. Whatever happens on that happens. That could be the runner going to second or third, clears the bases with 2 runs. And I just hate how people say, you're ruining a big inning. Well, you have no clue how the inning's going to go after that. It could be a big inning in itself just off of that decision. There's so many things that can happen. I think it was the right call. It was just poorly executed on Mendick. And for the situations I gave you, that's how you have to think about it, those in-game situations and how it can affect the whole outcome. That's just Mendick, and I'll let you guys answer, and then we can come back to the Cleveland series. So, go ahead.
Well, I real quick just want to mention something that I want to give Tony props for, and that's for the way he's been handling Liam Hendricks. I think the way he's using him, the amount of times that he's throwing him in the game, he's getting him a lot of work. He's getting into the grind. He's getting into the baseball shape. And when you're seeing Liam Hendricks being at the top of his game, I mean, this guy had 3 saves in 2 days. He has just got lights out stuff. That slider is getting nastier and nastier, and he's smoking guys off the plate. And as the stat at the bottom, he's converted his 11th straight opportunity and 15th in 2021. He has not allowed an earned run over his last 76 games, 15 innings pitched, which is really, really impressive. This is a guy that, at first we were getting a little worried. I know Zim and I were like, man, is this guy an overpaid bum? Well, we're getting what we're paying for right now. And if he can stay hot and if he keeps being used this way, I think we're going to see Liam Hendricks shut guys down all year long. So props to Tony for how he's handling Liam Hendricks. But on the other side of things, let's talk a little bit. And Zim, I'll let you chat a tad about this. Not pitching around Jose Ramirez on the Indians. I mean, this is a guy who was smoking hot, on fire, arguably the hottest hitter in all of baseball. And you're just going to keep on pitching to him and let him kill you over and over. I mean, what was your takeaway from that?
Well, yeah.
Oh, Gonzo, what was your takeaway?
Well, like I was going to say, this is a situation where I give Tony props on the bunting, but this is a situation during the week in the Cleveland series that is my con with Tony, because that's a situation, like even you hear Ozzy in the post game, he'll talk about you have to find that bat in the lineup in each series that you don't want this hitter to beat you. And for Cleveland, it's clearly Jose Ramirez. And I still can't figure out why we keep pitching to him. Granted, it was the rookie pitching to him, but still, like, that situation where you just gotta put him on base if it's available. If the base is available, put him over there. If the base isn't available, then I get you have to pitch to him. But it's a situation that is tough that I still don't understand why we're continuing to pitch to their probably the best third baseman in the AL, if I'm being completely honest with you. And even in the Detroit series, when you see a House is hitting 2 home runs in that game, that's when even in the Detroit series, you have to question. You're like, all right, do I start pitching to this guy or do I put him on base? So hopefully we see Tony start to, perhaps with the best hitters in each series, put them on base if the base is available, but if it's not, pitch to them. But I'd like to see it a little bit more, because it's tough to see when these close games go the other way with the best hitters, winning the game for them.
Yeah, I was pissed off, to put it lightly. You can't let the same guy kill you over and over again. Zim, I know you're back with us. Yeah. What were your thoughts of the handling of Jose Ramirez?
So as I was going to say, I'm not really going to sugarcoat this at all. Like, I don't like Yasmani Grandal behind the plate, and that is kind of why. We see these players that, we know the scouting report on as fans, and it feels like Grandal doesn't know the scouting report as a guy that's calling the pitch a lot of times. You know that Jose Ramirez hammers the low and away pitch. Why are you calling low and away pitches constantly to him? Things like that. It's just it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'm not saying the blame's squarely on him. The whole team does have a scouting report on these guys. The manager needs to stop and call him out. The pitching coach needs to stop and call him out. The pitcher needs to shake him off once in a while, things like that. There's a lot of blame to go around for it. I don't think it lies squarely on anyone's shoulders. That's just, Chris was saying earlier, he's a former pitcher. He focuses a lot on the pitching aspect of the game. I'm a former catcher, so I focus on those catchers, and that's just what stood out to me in that situation.
Yeah, man, that was a little bit frustrating for me, and I guess it goes on multiple people's fault. But at the end of the day, we still had a good series against the Indians and the Tigers. So I think we just have to be lucky for what we got there. We got out of there. We're still in first place. Got the first day off today in what seems like forever. So these guys are definitely going to take advantage of that. And then we get a very hot Toronto Blue Jays team with the best home run hitter in baseball right now, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I mean, this stuff is crazy. It's the stuff of legends right now. Baseball has been very interesting in Toronto, and technically they're not even playing in Toronto. I forget where they're playing with their home field, but it's going to be fun to see them come to town. It's going to be interesting. But before we get out of La Russa's locker, Gonzo, go ahead. What do you got?
I was just going to correct you there that Toronto, their home games are in New Buffalo right now at the minor field, at AAA field in New Buffalo. Just because of their issues with their home games in Toronto, they can't be there. So, like you're saying, their home games are in New York, New Buffalo.
Appreciate the correction there, brother. And gentlemen, let's go to the opposite side of things this week. We're going to talk about the guys that didn't perform the way that we thought they would. You know the name of the segment. I'm just going to go ahead and drop the drop.
You suck.
You suck.
Stupid. Lousy. No excuse.
What a dud. What a total dud.
Handful of nominees this week, guys, for the Adam Dud of the week. We can each talk about someone specifically, our nominee, but I'm going to go with mine. He's been red hot all year long, except for this week. My Adam Dud of the week goes to Jose Abreu, but 1 for 16, batting .063 with 0 RBIs and 0 runs scored. I know you can't be perfect every week, but Jose basically disappeared this week. So my Adam Dud of the week is Jose Abreu. Steven Zimmerman, who you got as your dud?
I'm pulling up some Danny Mendick stuff now just because, one, that bunt was something. I mean, we just talked about it, whatever. But, I mean, just generally speaking, he has been god-awful this year as a whole. And he's seen a little more, playing time as of late just due to everything that's happened with the team. But, I mean, how's 133 in his last 7 games with 7 strikeouts sound? That's just miserable. I don't care. And, I mean, he feels it more than we ever will. Let's not pile on here. But, man, step it up.
There you go, man. You've heard he has spoken. How about Gonzo? What do you got?
I'm going to go with Danny Mendick with that bunting situation. You have to execute in that situation, give him the opportunity. And clearly in a situation where, well, let's just face it, Gavin Sheets was brought up and sent down, and then, Mendick still has the roster spot. So if you have the opportunity, you need to execute, because there's other at-bats we can bring up that hopefully can execute. But, a situation that happened, and the result of that was a loss. So it was just an awful situation that we could have taken advantage of. And as much as I wanted to, would give Abreu an honorable mention, I just can't, because he did have such a huge at bat in that game last Monday in Cleveland that won the game for us. So yeah, for me, it's Mendick. Mendick is my Adam Dud of the week.
There wasn't that many guys that were bad this week, but for your best hitter on your team to go 1 for 16 and you still do as good as you did last week, I think that says a lot about this ball club and how good, 1, the pitching is, and 2, how good Moncada and Madrigal, we'll get to this in the next segment, but Moncada and Madrigal had both had great weeks. Zim, were you going to say something?
No, I was just agreeing. Like, it really does speak. This is what we've been talking about all season. The guys stepping up where they need to step up. And, when your MVP goes through a cold spot, somebody else has to step up. And those 2 guys did. So, no, go ahead. Why don't we just take it right into our next segment?
Let's do it.
Ball hit deep. Way back. He looks up. You can put it on the board. Yes!
That's right. This is the Put It on the Board segment. The players that lit up the scoreboard and had the fireworks flying high over the Dan Ryan. Boy, oh boy. Let's go to our picks to click. Well, actually, before we do that, we'll talk about who our players, our Put It on the Board player of the week is. It's got a couple nominations. I'm going to go with Nick Madrigal. The kid has been electric, swinging a hot stick. He went 7 for 16, batting .438 with 3 RBI. 2 runs scored, a homer, and a walk. Nicky Two Strikes has just been on fire. Gentlemen, who you got? Gonzo, who's your Put It on the Board player this week?
For me, it's Grandal. I mean, he had 3 home runs this week, and
swinging not bad.
Yeah, 2 home runs in 1 game versus Detroit. I mean, he just had such a huge week, and yeah, we all saw that he's leading the league with that 60% with the 3 categories, but he's starting to wake up, and it looks like that knee's getting healthy if he's starting to turn more on his knee and, use that weight off the back of his, that back leg to get that power from. And I mean, we did see it was all came from, when he was batting lefty. So we got to see a little bit more on the right side. But for the most part, I can't have much more criticism than that. But for the week that he's had, Yasmani Grandal, he's my player of the week, or you can put on the board player of the week.
Yeah. Now I'm just going to add to that real quick by saying, he was taking a lot of walks right before that. Usually when guys take a lot of walks, it means they're seeing the ball really, really well, right? It's kind of an old cliche, but I mean, this just goes to show that, yeah, that's the truth here. And maybe it was health was the reason why he wasn't taking the bat off his shoulder as much, that he was like, let me just get on base. This is what I can do to help the team. Now he's feeling good. He's swinging the stick, and it's creating very good results for everybody. But my put it on the board player of the week is Adam Engel. He came in just at the perfect time. Billy Hamilton goes on the IL. Adam Engel comes back, and the Sox don't miss a beat on the base paths or in the outfield, especially in the outfield, because Adam Engel came in and game one did what Adam Engel does best. And Chris, you were lucky enough to be there in person. You just described it to us, but man, I think we actually have a clip of the whole thing. Joe, can you play that for us real quick?
Let's do it. Let's take a look.
Will you explain to people who don't know it, as that ball is hit well, right center field. Engel is back at the wall. Adam jumps. Welcome back, 15! Oh, we missed you, buddy! Hey, game one, inning 5.
Wow. Talk about a catch. Guy comes back first game and just elevates. They call him Man of Steel for a reason.
Yeah.
Talk about a catch. Gonzo, what was that like in person?
So before the game, Joe, I was having a little pregame at the Chicago Shy Sox Bar and Grill, had a couple of drinks, had some food in me, and I was going through tweets before the game, and I wasn't seeing anything from Engel. So when I got to my seats in left field, the ballpark was pretty quiet. I wasn't hearing anything from Engel, but when I looked to center field, and I was expecting to see him get the call up on Tuesday in Toronto, but when I looked in center field, I'm like, shit, that's not Garcia. That's Adam Engel out there. I'm like, what? Like I didn't see anything in Twitter, saying they got the call up, no hype about it. So I was like, shit, that's Adam Engel out there. And then before I put my, pregame tweet, I added him into it. And then, sure enough, in the game, he makes that huge catch out in center field. And, he was making webcam catches before even MLB Network does a whole segment on it. So the fact that in his very first game, he comes back, makes that amazing catch. And that just, we can talk about it, guys. Like, is Adam Engel's glove better than Roberts? That could be a good discussion to have. Granted, Robert has a lot of potential as a player himself, but Engel's glove, he had a gold glove. So it's hard to argue it. It's such a huge impact defensively. And I know in the game he went 0 for 4 at the plate, but I'm just glad to have him. And I know that bat's going to wake up pretty soon. But gosh, what a fantastic player to come back up and to be there for us in a situation that we needed him.
Gives you a lot of confidence, that's for sure. And big shot in the arm, especially when losing Billy Hamilton to the IL the same day with that hamstring injury. And he's been on fire too. That's been rough. But yeah, a lot of great nominees this week for Put Her on the Board Player of the Week. And let's go to last week's Pick to Click. Here we go. I had Nick Madrigal. Gonzo had Yasmani Grandal. Zim, Adam Engel. And Vinny, Yoan Moncada.
I actually had to eat, not Engel.
You know what? I'm sorry. That's I think these the guys you picked this week? No. I had different names for last week on mine. Just to confirm, guys, last week I think I had Madrigal. Zim, you had Eaton. Gonzo, you had Abreu.
I had Abreu,
right?
Yeah.
And then Vinny went with Moncada. So there we go.
There we go. Might have just been off by a week or something. Who knows?
It's all right. No worries there. Things happen. But like I said, I had Madrigal, Zim had Eaton, Gonzo had Abreu, and Vinny had Moncada. Of course, Vinny can't be with us tonight. It's the 1-year anniversary for him and his girlfriend. So congratulations there, Vinny. We always love having you. We're looking forward to seeing you back next week. But nonetheless, picks to click from last week. Let's go to the stats. So Nick Madrigal this week went 7 for 16, batting .438, 3 RBIs, 2 runs, a home run, and a walk. Adam Eaton Zim batted .143 with 1 RBI and 2 runs scored. Jose Abreu, unfortunately, Gonzo, 1 for 16, batting .063 with 0 RBIs, 0 runs scored. Then Moncada, Vinny coming up in second behind me. Moncada 5 for 17, batting .294 with an RBI, a homer, 2 runs, and 4 walks. But I go back-to-back, guys. I won again 2 weeks in a row. I had Nick Madrigal. So I pick up my, I believe, what is this, my third win? No, it's my second win of the season. So I love it. I'm going to take my win streak and I'm going to go on with it. You guys let me pick first last week. I'm riding the hot hand with Nick Madrigal. So I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to go with this week's pick to click. I think Nick Madrigal keeps swinging a hot stick. I'm going to go with Nicky Two Strikes again. And I reached out to our buddy Vinny before the show and he gave me his pick to click. He is also going to ride with Yoan Moncada for the second week in a row. So there's 2 picks. Zim, since you're returning, we're going to let you go next. Who do you got for your pick to click?
Yermin Mercedes said he wants to be in the home run derby. He's going to show everybody why this week. Yermin Mercedes is my pick to click for the week.
I like it, man. I like it. He's coming back with the big balls. I like it. Chris Gonzalez, who you going with?
I'm going to pass on Abreu this week, even though I picked him last week. And he did have a ribby, Joe, last Monday in that key, what was that, last inning of that doubleheader? And it was, I know he scored the run on a sac fly, basically to left field to win the game. I think that was extras, maybe it was. But my pick to click this week, and I teased it last week, is going to be Timmy, because I'm starting to see Timmy kind of get, it looks like he's starting to read the, see the ball a little bit better. And in a week, you're going to be facing Toronto and Detroit again. Usually has good stats versus Detroit. So the fact that he saw Detroit already and he's already seen the ball get this past week versus Detroit, I'm going to pick Tim Anderson. And especially when, he can help get those all-star votes in if he starts to heat up for our shortstop selection. But Tim Anderson is going to be my pick to click for this week.
Good, exciting stuff. Gotta love it every single week. And now let's get to this week's hot topic in our guaranteed take.
Yay!
Yeah, so for this week's guaranteed take, we're actually going to touch on a subject that we briefly chatted with Slavko about. And this week's question, guys, is what young arm has the best potential for the future? It could be somebody on the team right now. It could be somebody in the minors. It could be whoever you want. Gonzo, I'll let you lead it off here because I know you always love talking pitching. Who you have?
Yeah, I know Vinny's a guy that probably picked Kopech, and I know he's been throwing the $300 arm around a lot lately, but this is a time where Kopech has to show that, and he is showing that, so maybe he will get that big payday coming soon. But 2 other guys, it's hard to pick from. But as far as righty goes, Cease, I'm still leaning on my boy Dylan Cease to definitely continue to progress and show, because we've seen his arsenal, and once that I'm saying he gets that confidence in his command and can make it easier on his pitch selection by being a little bit more efficient with his pitches, bring the pitching counts down so he can last longer. But once he does so, he's an arm that could be right up there with Kopech that I see it potential-wise. But the guy that I think is actually going to be above those 2, and again, another guy that we've seen this type of pitches on Pitching Ninja and just in general, when he's on, he's just filthy nasty, and that's Garrett Crochet. Once he gets his shot in the rotation in the near future, I'm going to choose him just because of the lefty standpoint, and we need a huge lefty kind of replace Dallas Keuchel in the short term in their window. But the comp I have right now for him would be Chris Sale with that nasty slider that they both have, the velocity that they both have. And if Crochet with that changeup's a lot harder than Chris Sale's is. So he's just filthy. And when he gets that shot, I'm going to be all up for it because both of them are pretty similar. They both start in the pen, and they're going to get their shot in the rotation, or at least Garrett's going to get it for sure. But yeah, Garrett Crochet is my promising arm to keep an eye on as we go.
Zim, who's yours?
No, I completely agree with everything Chris just said. I mean, Cease has some nasty stuff and could, definitely be a guy for a while, I don't know if he'll be the guy, but he'll be a guy for sure. Kopech, yeah, $300 million arm all the way. It's a matter of whether he puts it all together or if it's just the arm that's worth that much money. But Garrett Crochet, he was the 11th overall pick for a reason. That guy never touched the minor leagues, again, for a reason. Like, he is that dude. And I'm rocking the Justin Fields jersey tonight, right? So let's just go ahead and make a cross sports analogy. He's doing what Pat Mahomes did. He's sitting back, he's learning, he's taking his time to develop. And when he's ready, he's going to go out there, he's going to be the starter, and he's going to just start mowing through people. And we're seeing it already between the arm angle, the stuff, and just the heat on top of it all. He's got the junk and the heat to throw whatever to keep a pitcher or to keep a hitter off of his rhythm. So yeah, Crochet to me. And the cool thing I like with Crochet is that, we are talking about him as a potential starter, but where he's been used a lot is almost like a setup guy. And it makes me wonder, could you make him a closer? What would that be like? I don't know that that's necessarily the direction that he's going to go, but there are definitely paths that he could take to get there. We've seen it with a lot of guys. A lot of guys thought Aroldis Chapman was going to end up being a starter for a long time. And then, it turns out his body couldn't take that kind of assault on the baseball, for lack of a better way to put it, the way he was firing him in there. So he turns into a closer, and turns out he's a pretty damn good closer. So I'm just saying there's a lot of options for Crochet, and a lot of those options end with him being a very, very successful pitcher in the major leagues.
I love it, man. I love where you guys are going. For me, it's Dylan Cease. I mean, this is a guy that you've seen what Ethan Katz has done with him so far this season, and how he's gone from, like, I would say he was like kind of mediocre last year. He wasn't like amazing. He had some games where he was great, and you've kind of seen him take that next step towards greatness. And when this guy's dominating, he's dominating every facet of the game. I think he's going to continue to build on that. I think he's a year or two away from being a legit Cy Young candidate. And I think this kid is going to be one of the big name pitchers in baseball. I really believe it. He has the stuff, and it just excites me to see the guy pitch every single time. So regardless of who you pick, we have amazing pitching talent on this team. It doesn't get much better than this, so we're living the dream. But, gentlemen, let's move on and talk a little bit about the week coming up in the segment we like to call the White Sox Weekly. So it's a fun week coming up for the Pale Hose. Guys, we get to go play the Toronto Blue Jays, which have some explosive bats of their own. And then we get to play the Minnesota Twins. So let's take a quick peek at the upcoming schedule and kind of see what the White Sox have to deal with here. So, of course, Toronto has the leader of home runs in Major League Baseball in Vlad Guerrero Jr. They get 3 night games against them. So you get tomorrow. I'm not used to the off day on Monday. You got tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday against Toronto. Then you get to go ahead and play the Tigers again, which I think Dylan Cease will probably be pitching in that series. But you get, one night game and then an afternoon and a day game. So you get a little bit of everything there for Detroit. Gonzo, why don't you walk us through some of these pitching matchups and I know some of them are TBD, but I'm sure in the back of your brain you got it all figured out. Let's talk a little pitching.
Yeah, sure. If Aldo can blow it up a little bit, if he's able to, with the chat reading these information, because I do appreciate Aldo using the White Sox website, because they always put some interesting information and for these matchups. But for the most part, for tomorrow, it's going to be Rodon and Robbie Ray, two southpaws, and both of them are really solid pitchers. I like the matchup. I actually really love it. But the one I'm liking more is going to be on Wednesday with the rookie Alex Manoah, and I'm thinking it's going to be Lance Lynn on Tuesday. And for me, that's going to be a game of the series if it does hold through on Wednesday, because the rookie has been pretty hot for Toronto, and his MLB debut, I believe, was against the Yankees, and he mowed through their lineup, and that was when they were semi-hot at the moment too. And the third game of the series is looking like it's going to be Keuchel versus Rue. And Rue is he's a Cy Young candidate arm. He has been the past couple of seasons. And that's a tough matchup. I'm not going to lie, with Dallas Keuchel facing up against him. If I had to take a guess, the Sox will win the series 2-3. But this is going to be that tough game versus Toronto. And like you were saying, Joe, that their hitter to watch out for in that lineup, like his father, very dangerous potential in this kid, Vlad Guerrero Jr. Selfishly, with also everyone in the chat, be sure to vote for our guys in the MLB All-Star Game ballots.
Vote White Sox.
Selfishly, I've been voting Abreu, but I mean the numbers do go for Vlad Jr. But the only reason why I'm leaning more heavily on Abreu is just probably biasly, but guys, he was the MVP during the shortened season, and he didn't get to represent that performance in the All-Star Game last year due to COVID. So I would love to see Abreu get there just for that fact, that from that performance that he had. But this kid's going to make it hard. And granted, he deserves the praise. I'm still going to vote for Abreu just because I believe that Vlad Jr. is going to show this throughout the season, but he has yet to prove it through the full season as a young, prospect in the Toronto organization. But yeah, that's just how I see it with the first baseman. And as far as the Toronto series, that's what I see. And then the next three games at the end of the week is at Detroit, and we just saw Detroit, and the matchups are going to be pretty similar. The first game is going to be Giolito and Skubal. So hopefully we can bang up Skubal, but because he got to us this past weekend in a really solid performance. Yeah. And for me, this first game is going to be for me, pitching wise, the game of the week, because I'd love to see Giolito bounce back, because he gave up three out of the 4 runs he gave up was off home runs, solo shots. So you'd love to see Gio bounce back and shut these guys down. Second game is going to be a repeat from Sunday. Cease and Urena, likely. And I'm going to say likely because usually back half of the week can get jumbled up with the pitching staff. So just keep that in mind. But we could see a repeat with Cease and Urena. And then that last game on Sunday is going to be possibly Rodon versus Matthew Boyd. We didn't get to see Boyd in the last series, but we have seen him earlier in the season. He is a good, solid southpaw from Detroit. And we didn't get to see Rodon in Detroit either because he got moved to this week. So this is going to be pretty interesting. Hopefully, I'm going to be honest. I want to see a 3-game sweep in Detroit. So I only expect one loss this week if I'm looking at the matchups. That's my prediction. And then the bat I didn't get the stats. So Vlad Guerrero is batting .333, 18 home runs, 47 ribbies. Unbelievable.
Jesus.
The bat for Detroit, I think last week I said Robbie Grossman, but I call him for a joke for Rex Grossman, but Robbie Grossman, yeah, Robbie Grossman, he kind of died off, but Jordan Chopp, or Chope, however you want to call him, his production upped him this past week. So his numbers are .257 batting average, 9 home runs, 26 ribbies. Nothing to be scared of, but he is a hot bat when he is on to be, keep an eye on him because he did have some key at bats for them this past series.
No doubt, brother. It's tons of great baseball coming up this week, and us Sox fans got a lot to look forward to. If you're a fan of the North Side, coming up right after us, stick around here on the Ballroom Network, 9:30 p.m. Central Time. You got the Friendly Confines. They'll be talking all things Northsiders, another first-place team in Chicago. Crazy times here in Chicago, but it's a good time for baseball. But before we get out of here, we're going to do a fun little segment here before we roll. We're going to talk about our favorite sports jerseys of all time. And, of course, we'll have our favorite White Sox jerseys, and then we'll have one from another sport. But it's always fun to talk about. I'm going to go ahead and go first because why not? I'll get mine out of the way first. But how can you not love, in terms of modern jerseys, I love the new City Connect White Sox jersey. They premiered it on Saturday, and I was at the game. I'm wearing one right now myself. Absolutely love the swagger to it. It just absolutely screams Southside. And then, of course, you got the good guys wear black. Frank Thomas, classic black White Sox jersey. It's probably my favorite Sox jersey of all time just because it's so classic and iconic. And, of course, that's when they opened up the new park, New Comiskey Park. I believe that was 1990, if I'm thinking correctly. But regardless, I just love the look. It's just so clean and fresh. And then how can you talk about a favorite sports jersey without talking about arguably the best sports player of all time in Michael Jordan? I love the Black Bulls alternate jersey. Black jersey with the white pinstripe, and you got the red lettering. For me, it's just my non-baseball favorite jersey of all time. It's just absolutely my favorite. So that's a quick preview of my favorite jerseys. Let's toss it over to Steven Zim Zimmerman and talk about yours. And chat room, before Zim talks, chat room, let us know what your favorite jersey is as well.
Just before I get into it, Joe, yours are just the straight Black Bulls jerseys, not the red pinstripes.
It's the black with the white pinstripe. You can't see it in the picture.
Yeah,
and then it's got the red lettering.
That's actually, I was gonna say that's actually my favorite Bulls color on their jerseys. I loved watching Derrick Rose in that black jersey. Yeah, that was always fantastic.
It was a clean look, a very clean look. Those are some of the ones I see around here the most often, out west. But so my favorite jerseys, honestly, these new City Connect jerseys are freaking awesome. I love the straight black, but they remind me a lot of these old 1920s style Chicago White Sox jerseys that were oddly blue, but it was back when they still wore white socks. So I guess there's that to speak for them. The creamsicle jerseys, I feel like have to be on anything that I post with favorite jerseys. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I don't like the Bucs at all. I don't like anything about the team. Good for them. They won a Super Bowl, I guess, but those jerseys, I can't get enough of them. And then you got to talk about the Blackhawks jerseys, right? The Blackhawks have some of the best jerseys in all of sports, if not the best jerseys in all of sports. And I chose my favorite rendition of those. It was a very, very tight toss-up between the sort of throwback jerseys they used to have and the Winter Classic jerseys from the most recent Winter Classic they were in. But that black and white Winter Classic jersey is just such a I don't even know how to describe it. It's a perfect jersey to me. It shows it's got tons of different details, a lot of different textures involved with it, but it doesn't detract from the logo itself or from what it represents. Like it's just a perfect jersey to me.
I love it, Zim. Great choices, man. And let's toss it over to our other. Zim getting called out for liking the Bucs. But
again, I don't like anything about the Bucs other than those jerseys. I don't know what it is. I just can't get enough of them.
Yeah, I know a lot of people give hate on the creamsicle jerseys of theirs, but I thought they were really clean this past year.
Yeah,
because they updated those creamsicle jerseys this past season, and it was really clean. And your Blackhawks, that was the Stadium Classic jersey, that black and white one in that photo.
Didn't they debut it for their most recent Winter Classic and then just keep it for Stadium Series beyond that?
I believe they had one at the Stadium Classic in Soldier Field that they debuted, but then they also did another one after that. They just changed the color scheme up a little bit.
I could be mixing stuff up, but it is such a clean jersey all year round.
The Hawks in general, I believe they have the best sweater in the NHL of the of right now. My favorite, at least Blackhawks sweater, is the St. Patrick's, the green ones. The St. Patrick's Day sweaters are really fresh too. So,
Gonzo, what are your favorite jerseys?
Mine are, so I know when Aldo pops them up, I only showed 2 of them here, but for my favorite White Sox one is from the 1920s, specifically 1925, which is that navy blue one with the white pinstripes, and I love that old vintage Sox slogan on their jersey. I don't like the white one so much, the home one, but I love the pinstripes of the road and that navy color. I know after 1925 they added the overlap of the actual socks themselves, the white, like those White Sox that were overlapping. If you can remember them, they kind of looked like that on the hat itself, but it's really vintage, and I loved the whole uniform from back then. And then my non-favorite Sox jersey, just jersey overall, would be the vintage 90s Mighty Ducks jerseys. And I started watching hockey right when the movie The Mighty Ducks came out, and then Paul Kariya was mentioned, so then that got me interested into hockey. So then when Paul Kariya was mentioned, I went right to being a fan of the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. And I loved these jerseys, the color scheme of it. These were my favorite hockey jerseys at the time. And then right towards later of Kariya's career, he was battling concussions and he got traded to St. Louis. So when he got traded away was the time I switched over back to Chicago and became a Hawks fan right when they drafted Kane and Taves. So it was kind of the perfect timing of that whole ordeal. Sadly, I say that unfortunately, because Paul Kariya, he had an unbelievable Hall of Fame career, and it was shortened at the back half of it with the concussions because he could have probably kept going. But yeah, those jerseys itself, my favorite color was green, and I just love the combo, the purple and the green with the design of that Ducks jersey, because I couldn't stand it when the organization changed to the black and orange jerseys that they changed later. I really loved this vintage Ducks jersey.
Dude, I love it, man. So many great options here from all of us talking about our favorite jerseys, and so many great comments in the chat as well. Before we get out of here real quick, just want to remind everyone in the chat room that coming up right after us, 9:30, the Friendly Confines, talking some Chicago Cubs baseball. That started at 9:30 as soon as we get out of here. And then tomorrow on the Barroom Network, we have the premiere of The Perspective of Gaines at 6:30 p.m. Central Time tomorrow. And then you got Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls at 7:30 p.m. Going to be a great day of content from the Barroom. Make sure you check it out. And, of course, then we're going to take this time to make a quick announcement about, someone who's been filling in admirably for Zim over the last 4 weeks, and that's Vinnie Parisi. We're happy to announce and welcome Vinny. He is now a full-time member of the South Burbs Hitmen crew. We're so excited to have you, Vinny, with us moving forward. Thank you so much for filling in, and you just gelled so well with us. We can't get enough of you. We're going to have you join us full-time. So huge shout-out to Vinny. We're very much looking forward to it and talking baseball with you every single week. And then I want to talk about next week we have a new time slot. We will be starting the show at 7:45 p.m. Central Time. And then our guest next week is Phil Selig from Cuba Dugout. You can follow him at Cuba Dugout. He will highlight some of the White Sox young Cuban players. So that's going to be a great show next week, talking about some of the young talent from Cuba, both on the team and in the minor leagues. So that's going to be super exciting. We're looking forward to that. And then it's time for shout-outs. So Zim, we're going to go ahead and give it to you first. Again, congratulations on the birth of your son, AJ. He's adorable. Welcome back, my friend.
Yes. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to everybody in the chat and with the Barroom as a whole that's just reached out and, checked up on us, asked how we're doing, congratulated, and everything. It's all been awesome. I don't have them nearby. We actually got some sweet swag for the baby from our swag shop, by the way. Check out Deep Dish Tees for some of that swag. Just a final reminder there. But yeah, Mike hooked us up with some onesies for the little guy. And thank you, Joe, for making sure those got delivered safe and sound. We appreciate everything. And Thank you to Vinnie for filling in and doing such a great job. Also, it's awesome. I'm so glad that he is going to be joining us full time because I enjoyed talking to him the 1 week I got to be on with all three of you guys. So I have a feeling it's going to be just, more and more great stuff coming out of this show in the future.
Heck yeah, man. We appreciate it, and we're happy to have you back. And we'll be back to all four of us next week. So that's going to be fun, talking Cuban prospects with Phil Selig. Chris Gonzalez, what shout-outs do you got before we get out of here?
I'm just going to do my one shout-out this week. It's going to be to my girlfriend. It was such an amazing date that we had at the game yesterday. The first game we've been to in, 2 years due to COVID. And it was hot, but in the end, we made the most out of it, and it was just an amazing game itself. We witnessed history with that win with Tony, and shout out to the organization for the cutout that they put on the board for him, as that was probably queued up for a while now. But just a great game. And then we got Phil's Pizza, so shout out to Phil's Pizza because that was a fantastic recommendation by Joe to me. We picked that up on the way home. Now I'll leave it up to you, Joe, for showing us these great chat shout outs with the jerseys that they had as well.
Yeah, so we covered a little bit of them during the segment, but we had a couple of great call outs on best uniforms, Bearstown 19, best uniforms, White Sox 83, Rena Z talking about how the Blackhawks have the best jerseys. I mean, there's so many people in the chat room. There's no way I could talk about them all, but a huge thank you to everyone for hanging out in the chat room all day long. And I like Santiago's idea when we should have a show where our girlfriends and wives do the show. That would be interesting. We'll see if they. Yeah, I feel like that would take a little bit of practice, but not impossible.
No.
But nonetheless, I want to get a quick shout out, of course, to my wife Catherine and my Great Dane puppy Maverick, who's a little over a year old. Love you guys both. I love our little family, and thank you for letting me do this every single week. Yes, and of course, I got to hang out. I was trying to hang out with Gabriel, Bearstown 19, at the game on Saturday. We couldn't figure it out this time, but we're going to do it when Gonzo and I go on June 25th. We're going to make it happen. Santiago, I have a wife. My wife, Catherine. The other two have girlfriends, but I have a wife. So just to make it clear.
Yeah, I'll say my girlfriend was Soraya, or is Soraya.
Uh-oh.
I know I mentioned it prior, but just in case anyone was wondering names-wise, Soraya is my girlfriend. So
that's a story for another day. But thank you to everyone for hanging out with us on the South Burbs Hitmen podcast. For the South Burbs Hitmen, I'm Joe Mandel. That's Chris Gonzalez, and that's Steven Zimmerman. We will be back next week at 7:45 p.m. Central Time, talking with Cuba Dugout Phil Selig about Cuban prospects. So thank you guys for tuning in. A huge thank you to Slavko Bekovic for joining us. We'll see you guys next week, and go White Sox.